So this is our second podcast with the White Pill, Annette. We talked a lot about the heart in the first one, but we also decoded the symbolism at the Olympic Game ceremony. But we're going to go more deeper into the heart, what it means, what it involves, all that kind of stuff. So welcome back, Annette.
Thank you. So we'll continue with the Last Supper, I think,
Yep. Okay.
because I am on the learning journey and a lot of my followers are watching me learn. So we're all learning. And as I learn, I'm just showing my followers what I'm learning and they're learning. And we have a Telegram group and we've got almost 600 followers now, 600 members in the group, and we're all learning together. And it's pretty amazing. It's like we've started a little movement. So
Yeah.
much fun.
Yeah, and I noticed so many people are catching on now and they're noticing and picking up on all the signs. So
Yeah.
it's really cool.
When we talked last time, we were talking about the Last Supper at the Olympic Games. We talked about the heart being that one. And so in the Da Vinci Code, they kind of, it was a half lie. They kind of made it look like this one was Mary Magdalene, but it's not. It's this one would be Mary Magdalene. It's not Mary Magdalene, obviously, but that's where she would be. And that's John. Just like in Passion of the Christ, Mel Gibson's film, you'll always see Mary, and John together all the time. There's a reason for that. However, what I didn't know when I did that podcast with you, what I didn't know was that Mary actually began here. And this is really important because we're about to see some massive symbolic rituals that are, well, I think they'll be both about this one and this one. But this is we all start here. So we start here and this is where we want to go. So this is where we are now. And so this is Sagittarius. Sagittarius is basically the thigh area in the body. So when we talk about the legs, we're talking about the subconscious and the unconscious. So it's like when we're sleeping, we drop into that area. And we're in the subconscious realm. And that's why there's no chakras there that we're aware of. When we talk about chakras, they start at the root chakra, which is around the hip area. It's like the upper thigh, the hips. I think it's the hips and upper thigh. That is the human heart. And I know it's like, what? Yeah, but I don't know how to explain it. I just know that that's actually that's where the human heart chakra is. So it's hiding behind the root. So the root is the moon. And we all know about the dark side of the moon. We just don't know what's on the dark side of the moon. But what's on the dark side of the moon, what the dark side of the moon represents is the big secret, which is the human heart. And so, that's why, like at Mecca, right, the Muslims pray towards Mecca because Mecca, I thought at one point that Mecca was Venus, that Mecca was the divine heart, but it's actually the human heart. And it needs to be because we need to do work on the human heart to get to the divine heart. So in the Matrix, there's a scene which much, much earlier in my old highlights on my Instagram, I made the mistake of saying that it was in the feet. Neo has to fight someone.
Agent Smith?
No, it's an Asian man with a white outfit, and he has to fight him in a room before he can take out his key and unlock the door and take him into this corridor. And Morpheus and Trinity, they can't see him anymore once he goes out into this. It's like a back door or a back room. And so they can't see him anymore. And they're like, where's he gone? Where's he gone? That's because he's now been taken by the moon, right, to the thigh. And the reason why I thought it was the feet was because I knew I understood that there was a connection there, but I didn't know the bigger picture, because to get to the feet, you have to go through the thigh, and the thigh is where the human heart is. And so think of it like a room. So when he goes down that corridor and he gets the key, another key, and he unlocks another door, and he takes him into another room, which is actually like a courtyard.
Mm.
And then in that courtyard, we have all these crows sitting on the ground, and we have the oracle feeding the crows, right? And so the oracle isn't the black sun. That room is the black sun. That room is the human heart. And so when she leaves, Agent Smith comes in. So what's going on there? He's in this place where he can't even be seen by Morpheus and Trinity. So he's in some sort of back room. What's going on there? Now he's able to access the oracle through that courtyard, through that door, but also Agent Smith as well. The reason why he was able to see both of them in that room is because think of that courtyard, or that room, or that courtyard, as a place that has doors to different realms, right? And that's what the human heart is. It's a place that has doors open, portals open to different places. And that's why in the Bible it says, don't follow your heart, because your heart can deceive. You follow your gut, not your heart, because the heart can be deceptive. I think we all have experienced the consequences of following our hearts into a bad decision, right? How many bad relationships have we gotten into because we followed our heart into the relationship and not our gut? So we saw the red flags, right?
Yeah.
But we ignored them because our heart was telling us to go there.
Yeah.
So the human heart is a place of duality. And so when we, in the Truther community, we like to point fingers and sort of like, or we're always like kind of gossiping in a way about the elite and what they're up to. And, you know, we talk about, there's people that go on about the Freemasons and how they have the checkered floor, and that represents duality. So they worship, you know, duality. And at the end of the day, like, we live in a realm of duality, and we ourselves, our hearts are dual. So it's like, think of your heart like a centaur. It has the body of an animal, but the torso and the head of a human. That's your heart. It's the perfect allegory. So we basically want to rise above the animal, and we're being fed all these things in our world to keep us in the animal, you know? But what we want to do is we want to rise above the animal into the torso, into the head. And so I still don't know exactly what doors lead into the human heart. I do know there's a door to Uranus. I do know there's a door to Pluto. And I do know that through Uranus, there is another door to Neptune. You cannot get to Neptune without going through Uranus. It's impossible. And so maybe, and I think also Saturn as well. And I'm not sure about anything else at this point. I think that there's at least 3, could be 4, and could even be more than 4. I'm not on that level yet to know. I'm still learning. So you guys are just like watching me figure this out. So basically, okay, so let's go back to this, right? So Mary started out here. She was, so Sagittarius is in, so this is the human heart.
Wait, can we just clarify for those who are new to this? Like, you're talking about planets, right? And going through doors. Okay, how can you explain what these are so that they can understand what you mean by going through them?
So the planets represent energies.
Okay.
And so what we've been told about what the planets are is not, it's not accurate. Like, we've been fed a lot of lies about space. And so they're not these, they're far more important than people realize they are. And so, for example, Venus represents the divine heart. And so Venus is, it's like Venus is the heart, and then the black sun, which we'll have to talk about later because we can't see the black sun. But the black sun represents the human heart. Once we close the portals that we don't want open, we shift into Venus. So Venus represents the divine heart that is pure and that doesn't have duality.
Mm.
And so, we've got Saturn, which has rings. And so beyond the rings of Saturn, we have Uranus and Neptune, and, well, there's Pluto there as well, because anyway, Pluto's there. So we've got Neptune, Uranus and Pluto. So you know how we talk about, a lot of people, they don't understand what 9/11 represents. They know that that it's a very significant number. They don't know what it means. So 9/11 is basically Neptune. And so Neptune is 9, and 11 is your higher self.
Mm.
From what I understand, our higher selves have been partitioned off into Saturn, which is, it's like Saturn is like a parent that, it's like, think of it like your parents when you were little. They raised you and they gave you discipline and restrictions and limitations to help you become an adult so that you wouldn't turn into like a total degenerate, right?
Mm.
Now, once you reach like 18 years of age or whatever, and now you're mature, the discipline and the limitations and the restrictions, they no longer serve you, right? They served you up until that point, but you don't need them anymore. In fact, if you still had them, it would stunt your growth, wouldn't it?
Mm.
So Saturn is like the parent of the child. And so that's where we are. We're like baby souls that need rules. We need the rules, and we need the
Authority and the discipline.
exactly. So, but there comes a point where the rules no longer serve us because we've gone beyond. It's like, okay, we got it, but we got to keep going now,
Yeah.
And so we don't want to stay in under the reign of Saturn forever. At some point, at the end of the cycle, a number of people on the earth will be ready to go to the next place, which is Saturn is 7-11. 7-11. So we have all the 7-11 stores, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to 9/11, we think, oh, destruction, chaos, towers collapsing, because we think emergency, we think negative, because the powers that are in control here, they don't want us, they want to keep us here, right?
Yes.
Because this is where they can control us.
Yes.
So we need to break out of 7-11 once we're mature enough to do so. So to get to 9/11, which is Neptune, which is the highest sort of heaven. So think of Saturn as like, I don't know if it's like an area in heaven that's been partitioned off, or it's a level of heaven. So our higher selves are there. And in the Bible, Jesus said, what is bound on earth is bound in heaven, and what is loosed on earth is loosed in heaven. So to get out of Saturn, where we are bound, we have to come here to go up. And when we actually free our higher selves in Saturn by doing the work here in this realm of duality, where we have free will and we can make choices. But to get there, we have to go through 8. A lot of people are still talking about 9/11 and still looking at all the symbolism that's still coming up, like Trump being, shot at exactly 6:11 p.m., which you can turn the 6 upside down. They do that in symbolism. And so you can turn that upside down and it's 9/11, and there's all this symbolism, things like that. And they're stuck on, but what people are missing, what they're not seeing, that's just going over their heads, is the 8 symbolism. For example, when the towers were hit, they were hit 17 minutes apart. Numerologically, 7 + 1 = 8. World Trade Center Tower 7 was hit just over 8 hours after. And if you look, the 8 symbolism is actually really ramping up. And at the moment, it's quite extreme how much symbolism there is about 8 and 11.
And we can see that if you join the Telegram group. There's so many posts about the media just posting random stories about just irrelevant stuff, and they have to have the number 8 in there, or the number 11, or like something that adds up to those numbers. It's just crazy. Like, I can't believe it. When you know what to look for, you just see it everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. And often it's not actually the number 8. It'll be 17 or 26 or 35, because 3 + 5, 2 + 6, and 1 + 7, they equal 8.
Yeah.
And so it's another way to hide the 8, but also show it at the same time.
So just to clarify quickly, basically we can say that planets represent levels of evolution, consciousness, heavens. Could you say that?
Yeah, I still don't really know what the right word is.
Yeah.
I just use the word energy, but I feel like we don't even have the word in the English language to really describe what they are.
Yeah.
Some people will call them realms, and I still think that realms is not quite the right word.
Yeah.
When it comes to this kind of stuff, it's our human brains are quite primitive, and it's hard to explain when I struggle to even understand it myself,
Yeah.
So I mean, just look at, again, you've got the black sun and you've got Venus. So Venus is the heart with those portals closed. So imagine like Neo going into that courtyard and only seeing the oracle, but Agent Smith can't get in, right? That would now not be, he would then, when I forget his name, the character with the keys, when he opened that door, instead of going, I think he went to the right, he would have gone to the left, because now he would have moved up. And so he would have moved up into the divine heart.
Yeah.
And so once you've activated the divine heart, that's when it's like, it's something like, because you see the heart, the divine heart chakra is above, it's right above the solar plexus chakra. And this is a really, really important, very important topic to understand, the solar plexus, because the solar plexus is the gut, right? So when we say, listen to your gut, that's because everyone knows that the gut never lies. The heart can deceive, but the gut never lies, right? So follow your gut. We say that because that is a chakra that only has a portal open to Uranus, which is 8, right? But we'll get more into, because there's a lot hiding behind the number 8. That number 8 is the most mysterious number that I still cannot even fully grasp the meaning of. Like, it is so mysterious. Like, have you noticed our TV channels in Australia, we've got 7, 9, and 10. They skipped 8.
They
right?
did.
I mean, the amount of mystery around this number, and it took me so long, and I still don't fully understand it. Like, because I couldn't quite grasp for so long what 8 represented. They've deliberately made it so confusing to understand, and people talk about like devil numbers, right? There
Like
isn't, and
six, like
there
6
isn't,
and
yeah,
all
some
that.
people think it's 6, some people think it's 9. I've realized that there is no devil number. The devil hides behind other numbers.
And now that you mention that, I also think it's a good time to just bring up quickly, a lot of truthers, if they watch this and they hear that you're talking about Saturn in like not like such a negative way, they're going to be a bit triggered by that, or they're going to say, oh, Saturn's evil, Saturn's bad, like
Yeah, that's
Saturn
right.
is,
Because
so like, how can you explain to them,
because the devil hides behind other things. The devil is hiding.
Yeah.
And so what they've done it in mythology. They've done it all over the place. Is they've blended things together so that it hide when they blend, and they invert, but they also blend when they blend. So when we talk about Saturn, they've actually blended Saturn with other
Satan
things.
and the elite. Satan and the elite, that's their planet. All this stuff, it's been blended, but really it's like, no, okay, the elite run this realm, but it's necessary for our evolution that we're at this level now. We've come down to have free will.
Yeah, we signed up for this.
Yeah.
So, but the when we talk about the powers, like the negative powers that clearly run this domain, that run our society, right? They're really hiding behind. It's really more Pluto than Saturn, and that's why there's all this, thing about Pluto. Oh, it is a planet. No, it's not a planet anymore. Or maybe it is now. It's kind of reveal and conceal because Pluto is the unconscious. So when we talk, how I said the heart is like a centaur?
Yeah.
So Pluto would represent the feet. And you know how we have all these times where we see like videos of like all these incidences and then we see shoes lying around, right? Like there's shoes lying around on the floor in the background and everyone's like, a lot of people have picked up on it, right?
Dale posts about it as well a lot.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that represents the unconscious.
Pluto the dog.
Look up Pluto Goes to Hell.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
I mean, they've been telling us for a long time.
Yeah.
So anyway, where was I going with this? Okay, the solar plexus. It's really, really important to understand the solar plexus. Extremely important to understand it now at this time in history, because the solar plexus is the key to knowing where the next big psyop is going to take place, right? Because that is the chakra. It's a very powerful chakra. It's where it's basically, it's connected to Uranus. It has a portal to Uranus, and Uranus, remember, is the only way to get to Neptune,
which is our higher self.
Well, the higher self, when it comes to talking about it on this level, like it's still vague in my mind. Like it's such a big concept. All I know is that 9 Neptune is like, it represents the highest level. It's the highest level. There's nothing higher. And when you think about it numerologically, there is only 1 to 9. There is no 10. 10 is 1.
Correct.
So it is the highest level. So 9/11 is a really big deal, but 8/11 is even more of a big deal. 8/11 is a bigger deal because you can't get 9/11 without 8/11. So 9/11 in 2001 was like a trailer for 8/11 coming down the pipeline.
Okay. And then 7/11.
7/11, you're not going to see like big rituals. Like you're not going to see.
We just have a lot of 7-Elevens in the world.
We have about 85,000 7/11 stores in the world.
Yeah.
With the 7/11 up in lights, screaming at us all the time. This is where you are. But you're not going to see You're not going to see 7/11 buildings go up in flames and get attacked
and they won't destroy it because that's what they want. Like they want us there. But the reason why they destroyed 9/11 or on 9/11 symbolism is because they're trying to symbolically say, we don't want you to get there.
Exactly. And the same thing is about to happen with the number 8, 8/11.
Okay. So when you talk about, when you go from 7 to 9, 8 is it like the alchemical union? Or what would that be?
Okay, so I'm getting into that now.
Cool.
So we'll start with the solar plexus.
Okay.
So try to make it easier to understand, because I know how hard it is to understand all this. Yeah. Even I can't fully understand it myself. So you've got the solar plexus, which is right below the heart chakra. So in the Bible, Moses took the Israelites, he freed them from Egypt. Egypt is the unconscious, it's the lower part of the body. It's when you're in slavery, you're unconscious, right? Which most people in the world are. They're actually enslaved to their lower desires, right? So
would that be like materialism, sexual urges, superficial
yes,
needs,
sensual
greed.
pleasures,
Yeah.
greed, all that stuff. And so they're enslaved. So this, like, think of them as like the Israelites in Egypt. And then Moses frees them and he takes them out into the desert. But they think they're going to enter the promised land, but they don't enter the promised land for 40 whole years because they the desert is where they need to do the work. They've come out of the unconscious, and now to get to the promised land, they need to do the work to get there. They can't just you're not just going to be fed, like, you're not just going to be given the keys on a silver platter to go to the next level. You need to do the work. We're here to do the work. And so for 40 years, they're doing circles in the desert. When they finally do reach the promised land, because they're finally ready to get there, they cross the Jordan River. Now, the Jordan River represents that part in the body that's it's a solar plexus, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Jordan River is a solar plexus. I know some people think it's the spine because of George W. Carey's work, and they go, oh, no, it's a spine. It's not. There's a lot of deception in George W. Carey's books, in his work. It's the solar plexus. So they cross the solar plexus into the promised land. And that's why in the story, the 12 priests pick up 12 stones, put them in the river, and then once the Israelites have crossed the river, they go back. I mean, obviously it's not literal. They go back into the river, they grab the stones, the 12 stones, and then they take them to the camp, right, in the land of Canaan, which they've just come into, and they put the stones there. So those stones represent the zodiacs, the 12 zodiacs, right? So the solar plexus is where the zodiac forces enter the body. So you've got the 12 zodiacs, and then you've got number 13, which is the sun. There is no, a lot of people say there must be a 13th zodiac. There's not. 13 is the sun that travels through the 12 zodiacs. So, when we talk about the sun, the solar plexus is where the sun is born, right? And it's basically it's the seat of the soul, right? And so that's where your soul resides. Your soul is there. And so
interesting to point out, in the Japanese culture, if you disembowel yourself in the solar plexus, it's like you're killing the soul.
Wow.
That's what they believe. Yes.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's accurate. So basically the solar plexus think of it like your soul is trapped in the solar plexus until you've done enough work that you've resisted the lower desires, the carnal desires. So you've risen above. We need to rise above the lower carnal animal desires. And that's where the concept of animal sacrifice actually comes from. It was never meant to be literal animals. It's about you sacrificing your lower animal nature. Because remember, you're like a centaur. Your heart, and the heart is the center of everything. The heart is everything. And so, like, once you have sacrificed enough of your lower animal desires, there comes a time in this cycle where your soul is able to be unlocked and pass and actually come up north or east, because the sun rises in the east, right? So we say north, but it's also the east, because the sun rises in the east and sets in the west. So the east is very important. When we talk about the east, it's very, very symbolic. Remember, the 3 wise men came from the east to bring Jesus his gifts. They came from above, because it's all a story about the microcosm, which is you. It always comes back to you. You are the microcosm of the macrocosm. You have the whole universe inside of your body. And so basically, the solar plexus is a very powerful chakra. It can be used for the wrong kind of power, and it can be used for the right kind of power. So for example, the US government represents the solar plexus as a government. Australia represents the solar plexus as a land, as a country. So this is where the knowledge and wisdom of the Australian First Nations people comes in, which I still need to get into. But Australia is a powerful land because we've got in sort of maybe the middle of Australia, a little bit more to the left side, but we have Ayers Rock, we have Uluru, and that's actually considered the solar plexus, right?
Of the earth.
Of the earth. The solar plexus chakra of the earth. So when you look at the US government, and that's why they're the most powerful, you know, they're such a powerful government, right? So that's representing an aspect of the solar plexus. And that is why to the east of the US, we saw the symbolic ritual of 9/11 on the far east side of the US. Now in Australia, we have Uluru, the solar plexus. What's on the far east side of Australia? If you look, you've got Brisbane, you've got, you know, Sydney, you've got Melbourne, right? This is all happening on the east side of Uluru. Now, what city was the most locked down city in 2020 and 21 in the whole world? What was the most locked down city?
Was it Melbourne?
Melbourne.
Yeah.
So then we had the floods in Byron, which is the most east point of Australia, right?
Which is above in the northern kind of area.
Yeah. So that's between Brisbane and Sydney.
Yeah.
Much closer to Brisbane. And so that's the most east point of Australia. And so we had, anyway, that was pretty crazy. Like that was definitely manufactured. And when it happened, what happened there was so bad. It was so bad. And yet it was completely just sort of overshadowed by what was happening in the Ukraine, in the media at the time. And so then we've got Sydney and we've got Brisbane. And so I remember thinking, wow, because you know, there's some people listening that they'll know about the seals of Revelation, which is basically at the end of the cycle, at the end of the age, there are all these sort of signs of the end. And so there's the 4 horsemen, and the 4 horsemen represent the first 4 seals. And there's just been a lot of symbolism about that we've seen. It's too much to ignore. And so there's a man called Jason Brashears. He's the most well-read man in the world, and he helped me fill in so many of these blanks. And he pointed out that they've lined up these seals which, by the way, the word seals is about the chakras, right? So again, it's all about the chakras. So the first seal broke in 2020, and that was the white horse with the
crown.
The horseman wearing a crown with a bow and arrow. And so that arrow represents it's a poison arrow, right?
And the crown represents corona.
Well, yes, coronavirus is crown virus. So yeah, we can get more into that later. But then the second horseman is this red, fiery red horse, not red, but fiery red. And it's the horseman riding it is holding a machete or a dagger. And a lot of, like, I grew up in the Christian church that was very, very into like the book of Revelation. It was a denomination that was obsessed with the book of Revelation. And they used to always say that the horseman was holding a sword. But when you look into it, it's not a sword. It's actually actually a machete or a dagger. And so the reason why they think it's a sword is because the word great is in there, but it's not about the knife being great. It's about the effect of the dagger or the machete being great, right? Being like very widespread. And so earlier this year we had
stabbings.
We had the stabbings begin. They really started so it's become normal now. Like people are so desensitized now to stabbing, seeing the word stabbing in the media. But it really started in Sydney. Now, what I found so interesting was that it happened in a place called the eastern suburbs, right? On the east side of the solar plexus. But get this, inside a building called Westfield, right?
Yeah.
So happened in the eastern suburbs in a building called Westfield. And the targets were women. And women represent the heart. Then we had another stabbing big one in the UK where the targets were children. And it happened on the north side of the heart chakra, which is Glastonbury, in a town called Southport, and in a building called Heart Space on a street called Hart Street.
Wow.
And children also represent the heart. So it's you can't deny all these, like, you can't
There's
deny.
just too many coincidences.
There's too many. So I was like, wow, I started to realize, okay, yep, the government, the US government represents solar plexus. Australia, the Uluru is a solar plexus. The heart is in the heart chakra of the world is in England, so they don't want us to get there. So I did strongly suspect that there would be something big happening there, which there was. But really, I think the symbolism is mostly going to happen in the solar plexus, because it's where they want to keep the soul trapped. So, okay, let's look at 9/11 in New York for a minute.
Yeah.
What buildings were affected? We had World Trade Center 1, 2, and 7, and the Pentagon. The Pentagon represents the heart. I'll have to go into that another time, but it definitely represents the heart. It's the divine heart, in fact, because it's actually Venus, and Venus represents the divine heart. And so you've got World Trade Center 1, the one with the spike, which I think was 1 from memory, that's Jupiter. The one without the spike is Venus. And the small one, which went down just over 8 hours later, is Mars. That's World Trade Center 7. And so that's why 7 went down. A lot of people don't understand, why did that one have to go down? Well, it's Mars. It's the throat. Right? So Venus, Mars, Jupiter. And this is what they don't, this is 9/11 there.
Gotcha.
That's 9/11.
And one, like, that can't happen if one is out of kilter.
That's right. So, okay, let's go to the Matrix for a second. When Neo is in the heart of the City Hotel, okay, and
which
and
one is this one? The first
This is
one?
part 1, I think.
Okay, yeah.
He's in the heart of the City Hotel, and so that is a building that represents, just a note, the Matrix was shot in Sydney, Australia. Keep that in mind for later. So the heart of the City
Hotel. I didn't know that. I actually
didn't know that.
No. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
It was shot in Sydney. Yeah.
Okay.
So the heart of the city is the human heart, and that's why the bad guys can access the building. That's why they're in there. Now, do you know who represents the divine heart in the Matrix?
The chick.
Yeah, Trinity.
That's it.
So what happens? He dies.
Isn't it interesting her name is Trinity too?
Yes. Yeah.
That's not a coincidence.
No.
Anyway, continue. Sorry. I'm getting excited.
So he dies, right? They shoot him and he dies.
Yeah.
And then she brings him back to life with her love. Wow. Right? And back in the ship, because he's disconnected from his body. He's in another place. So she brings him back to life with her love. Now he gets up, and now for the first time, because you know how in the Matrix you've got that famous scene of him dodging the bullets?
Yeah.
But earlier Morpheus, he said to Morpheus, are you telling me that one day I won't have to dodge bullets? And Morpheus says, no, Neo, what I'm saying, no, that's right. He goes, are you saying that I'll be able to dodge bullets one day? And he says, no, Neo, what I'm saying is that one day you won't have to, right? So this is the scene where for the first time he doesn't have to dodge bullets, because the bullets stop in front of him and they drop to the floor. But before they shoot at him, Trinity wakes him up with the heart. So now and she says, what does she say? Get up. I think she says, get up. Now get up, she says. Now get up, because he's trapped in the solar plexus. And now she said, now get up. Yeah. So now he can rise through the heart. So he gets up. Now he gets up. And then what does he do next? He says the word no. So that was
That's the throat.
Yeah. He activated the throat chakra. Now the soul can go all the way up to the third eye and activate Jupiter. It's the higher octave of the sun, because the soul is a sun and the higher octave. I know we've been lied to about space and it's hard to understand that.
Yeah.
You just have to remember NASA has a forked tongue running through its logo for a reason, right?
Yeah.
So the sun reaches Jupiter, activates, and now he doesn't have to dodge bullets. The bullets drop to the floor. He has now activated his dormant DNA. Right?
Wow. And now, so what's that like? He can control, manipulate matter?
He can manipulate matter. He's got power over matter. Now let's go to the Stranger Things for a second. There is a scene that parallels that scene in the Matrix so much that even the average person has picked up on it. You can actually go and find videos, right? On YouTube, where they're in a pizza shop, right? Now, pizza, a lot of people, when they think pizza, they think, oh, that means Pizzagate. Now, Pizzagate was a way to
invert.
Not invert.
Not invert.
It's not about inversion. It's about wrapping up the symbolism in controversy, right? Now, when you do that, they do it all the time. When you do that, it spreads, like the message spreads organically. And then they've got an excuse to put it in the media and talk about it. So people think they understand what pizza means, but there's a deeper understanding, and that is the human heart. Because when you cut a pizza, it cuts in 8 slices. And so the number 8, think of the human heart like the daughter of Uranus, which is 8. It's like a daughter, but it's dual, right? Because it's in this realm. It's actually underneath us, and it's dual celestial body, and it's also hiding behind the number 8. So the number 8 is, trust me, like I can't even explain, but the number 8, when you think of the number 8, think Uranus, think black sun, and think even more than that, which I'll have to get into later because it's too confusing.
And the number's like an infinity symbol. Could that be another added meaning?
Yeah, so I'm not quite sure, but I don't know.
Is that like a trap? Like a trap in this?
It could be the loop.
Yeah.
Of like the loop of this construct.
Yes.
It could also, so it's again, I feel like no one really understands 8.
Yeah.
Like yet. I haven't found anyone that really does, and I still don't.
Yeah.
But I know that's a possibility. So like basically they're in a pizza shop, which is the equivalent of the heart of the city hotel, right? In the Matrix. It's the same thing. It's the human heart. Now she's in there. 11 is in there. Her name's 11, main character. Now, just like in the Matrix, she has to go into this other realm. So her body is there, but her consciousness is somewhere else. Just like in the Matrix, his body's lying there with Trinity, but his consciousness is somewhere else. And so now she's in the pizza shop, and she's accessed the Pluto portal, right? Which is the portal to hell, to the unconscious. And that's where the devil figure is, Vecna. Just like the Agent Smiths were in the heart of the city hotel, Vecna is there. And so he's the enemy that she has to defeat. Now, what they did a bit different in there was they actually had another character representing the throat chakra, and her name's Max. And she spends the whole season being closed up and not being able to express herself. Her counselor can't get her to express herself. Her friends can't get her to express herself. She's got all this trauma and she hasn't healed it. So she's got problems expressing herself. And so so the throat chakra is basically locked. And so the Vecna, he's tied her up. He's tied up both Max, the throat chakra, and 11, who represents the soul. But she's lost her power. So she's back to being stuck in the solar plexus. In past seasons, she was up here, but now she's lost her power and she's back stuck in the solar plexus. So she has to break free. And it's the same thing. She's got a boyfriend who the whole season hasn't told her that he loves her, and it's been upsetting her the whole time, right? Finally, he tells her, I love you. I love you, right? And he's talking to her about how much he loves her, and he's finally opening up for the first time and expressing how he feels about her. This now gives her the power to break free. And so basically, like the heart chakra is now, he's the heart chakra. He represents the heart, like Trinity represents the heart, the divine heart. So he's now open, she's free to rise, and he says, now fight. Or no, he says, fight, fight, fight. Like Trinity says to Neo, get up. He says to her, now fight. So she unlocks herself, frees herself. The first thing she does is she rescues the throat chakra Max, who's about to be killed. It's the first thing she does, because that's the first thing that happens. You get up to the throat from the heart. Now you have to open that one. And like, yeah, they make it look easy in the Matrix. He just gets up and he says the word no. Like, you know, it kind of, you just think, well, what does it mean to open up the throat chakra? What does that even mean? Like, does that mean you just talk? Well, what it means is that once the heart chakra is open, right, the solar plexus now merges with the heart chakra, with the heart chakra here in the chest. So Uranus enters the heart, right? So it's now Venus, and it's only connected to Uranus. Yeah, so Uranus and Venus both represent different aspects of the divine feminine. That's why you've got Mary Magdalene and Mary Mother of Jesus, because Mary Mother of Jesus was the virgin, and the solar plexus is in the area governed by Virgo, the zodiac Virgo. And then you've got Mary Magdalene, who is the heart. She was the human heart. Now, what happened when Jesus met Mary? What was the problem? She had demons. She was possessed, right? That's because she had the gate open to hell. So Jesus closes the gate. Now she goes to being Venus. Now she's here. And that's why at the Olympic Games, I had the little girl here. Because that's the secret. They want us to stay here and keep those portals, those extra portals open. But the secret is, no, we want to close the portals, close the gate, right? Like in Stranger Things, there's this emphasis on closing the gate, close the gate, close the gate. Because we want to close the gate so that these forces, these unconscious lower forces, cannot influence us anymore. And now we're up here. Now, what's the next step? Well, now you've got Uranus connected to the heart, and it's feeding in pure divine wisdom, right? Which the Christians call it the Holy Spirit, and the Knights Templar call it Sophia. And so wisdom enters, and now you can't keep it to, you're not supposed to keep it to yourself. You need to express. You need to get it out, and you need to share it with others. So you need to activate this. And I know that sounds, okay, that's easy. Just express it. Just express the wisdom that's coming into your heart. But we live in a world where wisdom looks like foolishness, and foolishness looks like wisdom. Like the truth is going to offend everyone unless they are, Joseph Campbell said it best. He who thinks he knows doesn't know, but he who knows he doesn't know knows. And so when we walk around like we have all the answers and we know the truth, we've picked the right religion and all the other ones are wrong, or we just think we already have the truth.
And you shut yourself off completely from
you're like a full cup, and there's no room for wisdom. It's like you're literally outrunning wisdom, because you think you know it all, and there's no room for more knowledge. I would say most people are like that, because people actually find safety and security and identity in their beliefs. People don't want to feel like they don't know, they don't have all the answers. And so you need to have humility to be at that point, to say, you know what, maybe I was wrong about that, And so the way, it's so clever what they've done is like they've basically gaslit the truth from every single angle. So the Christians will be offended by this point, and the atheists will be offended by that point, and the Muslims are going to be offended by this point over here. And so by the time you finish talking, you've lost all the Muslims and all the Christians and all the Jews and all the atheists. And like, who's left? The only people that are left are the people who, they could be Jew and they could be Christian and they could be Muslims and they could be atheists. but they're the ones that are open to deeper knowledge and understanding. And that means they have to have humility. So when you express the wisdom that's come into your heart through the Spirit or through the Holy Spirit or through Sophia, whatever you want to call it, there's all these different names, it's all the same thing. And this is where it gets really interesting, right? Going back to the symbolism and looking at the eastern suburbs, where in the building called Westfield, we had basically like the opening, it was like, and we were expecting it, a lot of people were expecting it to happen in 2024. Like Jason Brashear says, it lines up with the Olympic Games. So that's why we had, in 2020, we had the,
It's 4-year cycles, isn't it? So
yeah,
2020 is the first horse, 2024 is the second horse, 2028 will be the third, and so on.
exactly. That's what it seems to be. So,
and this horse is like chaos. It's representing chaos
and division.
Yeah.
It steals peace from the earth. So whatever peace is here now, the goal is to steal it from us. And so when I looked at so to cause division, so that's why everyone's becoming radicalized at the moment, especially like the Christians. You're seeing so many people sort of like go and get baptized in water, and all these celebrities converting to Christianity. Christ is King.
And the girl from America,
Candace Owens.
Yeah, that one. Yeah.
So because they're setting, it's like we're all being groomed to pick a side in the conflict that's coming. And so of course it'll be another inside job and all that, but most people are not going to realize that, and they're just going to fall for the narratives again. And so basically, like, okay, I was like, okay, they kind of broke the seal in a way in Sydney. And I thought that kind of makes a lot of sense, because the solar plexus is Uluru, and I thought, does that mean that like the big event, like, because that was just foreshadowing for what's coming. That's not the big event. The big event has to be bigger than 9/11, because it has to be, because it's one of the seals. And the seals have to be massive. That's why 2020, I mean, if you were walking around in 2019 saying, oh, there's going to be this big like pandemic and the whole world's going to get locked down and everyone's going to be like sort of like manipulated by the governments to like get mandatory injections of like experimental so-called vaccines and all this stuff, right? People would have thought you were nuts, right? They would have thought you were a total conspiracy theorist. But it happened, right? It happened. And so the second one has to be big as well. And I started looking around. I'm like, I wonder if there's like some architecture, because when you think conflict and stealing peace from the earth and all that stuff, you think, okay, well, what's the best way? You can see that everyone's being groomed for something. Like, it's definitely, that the stabbing is about the heart. That's what the machete and the dagger is about, the heart. So there's got to be something big that happens, just like 9/11 was about the Pentagon, which is the heart, which is Venus, and then the three chakras of the three chakras, like, because that's the alchemical union, right? The three, boom, boom, boom. That's just like Neo, he activated the dormant DNA. So it has to be that there's got to be some massive structures that there's going to be like a fake terrorism attack, right? And of course, we had this press conference in Australia not long ago. Oh, it's very probable that there will be a terrorist attack, blah, blah, blah. It's like, it's kind of all pointing towards it happening in Australia. There's just so many things pointing towards it. And that the funny thing is that nobody suspects it. Like Australia's like this lucky country.
We're so far from everyone. We're on our own. We're protected.
Yeah, we've got no guns, and there's a reason for that, because it's showing an aspect of the solar plexus. It's showing an aspect of it, because the solar plexus is a portal. It is a chakra that only has a portal to a benefic entity, or a benefic energy, right? There is no malefic energy mixed in with it. So it makes sense that Australia would be this lucky country. We've really been set up. We've been set up for something to happen to shock the world, to put the world into a state of shock, because everyone will be like, what? Australia, like everyone, it's going to shock everyone. So I was like, okay, what architecture is sort of sitting around in, like the east of Uluru? Like, I mean, I live in Sydney. I'm not familiar with Brisbane and Melbourne, so I just look around in my own city. And I was blown away when I realized that, I was looking at all these sort of big buildings, new buildings, and I came across the One Barangaroo, the Crown. It's like the Crown Casino, the Crown Hotel. And I couldn't, like, honestly, like when I first saw it online, my mouth, I saw so much symbolism when it comes to the number 8, which I know there's a cover story for, because it's like, oh, that's a good luck number in Chinese, blah blah blah. In China, they perceive it as a good luck number, and there's a casino in it. So they have ways of covering up and explaining away the symbolism, right?
Yeah.
Which is what they do, so that you look like a crazy person because you think you're looking too far into it.
What is it, like 88 levels that they have?
It has that the top floor is the presidential suite, and it starts on the 88th floor.
Yeah.
There's a lot of 8 symbolism around. There's a lot. I mean, even the phone number.
Yeah, we went in there and we saw it.
1-800-8 crown.
I think it was 1-300-8 crown.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
But then people
why
say,
put 8 there? Why? Why the 8?
Well, then they'll say, oh, it's because it's Chinese. But then you see the 8 symbolism not just in the building itself, but also in the controversy surrounding the casino. Yeah. So if you look at the dates of those hearings that they did, and because they, of course, like I always say, like, they package the symbolism in controversy. So they had to create controversy around that building. So they did it with the casino. And so it was in the news all the time. There was this whole thing about the casino not having the right license, which is why it's running more like a private membership association, where you have to sign up as a member. And
I think there was the cost of it added up to 8 million or billion. Like there was an 8 involved in the cost. I
can't even remember like all the 8s I saw. I have to like revisit it all to remember. But there was so many 8s. And then, of course, the building, like, okay, here's the other thing. As I was researching it, I was accidentally stumbling across these 3 buildings right across the road because it had the same name. Yeah, like one was called One Barangaroo, that's the Crown, One Barangaroo. The other one is called One Sydney Harbour. They called them the same name, One and One, right? And I saw the complex is a complex of 3 buildings. It has 808 apartments all up. It's number 88. You saw that number, the big 88. Now 88 is 3 times 8. It's 11. It's 11 times 8. Wow. 8, 11, right? Wow. 88 is 8 times 11, or 11 times 8. And straight away, I was like, this is crazy, because I'm pretty sure that complex represents the alchemical union, Mars, Venus, Jupiter. And it's also, the buildings are very lightweight. Like they look like, I have a friend that calls them paper buildings. They just look so lightweight. And so anyway, look, ever since then, I have just come across so much symbolism, and I've been sort of sharing it on my Instagram, and we've got the Telegram group, and so many people have caught on. We've got like 600 people in there, and so many people have caught on that I ended up getting sent so much more symbolism than what I had even seen. So
got a whole team working now.
And it just rolls in constantly. Like there's this one example is this scene in The Umbrella Academy that talks about that one of the characters, he says it's the weirdest thing. Like, it's obviously symbolism. He's writing some notes in a notebook, and another character says, "What are you doing?" And he says, "Oh, I'm just writing down breadcrumbs." Right? So I guess they're like, so he doesn't get lost, on the way back or something. And he says, broken vending machine. So there was a broken vending machine, stain on the floor that looks like Australia. I mean, it literally looked like a perfect map of Australia. Like it didn't even roughly look like, it looked exactly like Australia. A stain that looked exactly like Australia. So he wrote a broken vending machine. So when I think vending machine, I think like similar to a pokey machine.
Yeah.
Like you would see in a casino, right?
Casino, yeah.
And so stain on the floor that looks like Australia and 3 burnt out light bulbs, right?
Wow.
And like we know fire will be involved. So having the word burnt out light bulbs to me is like interesting.
And 3.
3. I started going into the opera house, for example,
Mm.
and I noticed that Prince had actually died 8.5 weeks after he performed at the opera house.
Wow.
And there's a lot of like references to, like Prometheus in mythology, about the architect. Like there was definitely like a lot of number 8s. There was a lot of controversy about the building back in the 60s or 70s, whenever it was built. There's a lot of there were protests because they sort of got rid of the architect that designed it, and then there's a lot of 8 symbolism around that. And there was a news article that referred to him as Prometheus, which I've worked out. Prometheus, there's a lot there, and I think Prometheus actually represents the black sun. And there was another, I got some books. There was a chapter in a book there was actually the title of a book that referred to it as a poisoned chalice, which the chalice I worked out is actually represents the heart. There's just so much, like the Holy Grail, and that's why the Holy Grail is connected to, you've got a connection with the Holy Grail to the heart chakra in Glastonbury in England. And it just keeps going and going and going and going. And there's another one which is the Sydney Airport. And there's a lot of symbolism there with Sydney Airport. The guy that actually started the airport, his surname was Love. And he took off. He actually used the airport for the first time with a plane to take off on the 19th of November, 1919. If you do the numbers, that's 19 is 9 plus 1 is 10. You take the 0, it's 1. So you got 1. November is 11. So 1, 1. And then 1919 is 1, 1. So it's 1, 1, 1. It's like 5 ones.
Wow.
Now, speaking of ones, let's go to the architect of the Twin Towers in New York. I can't remember his name right now. I think it was Japanese. And so from the date he was born to 9/11, September 11, 2001, he was 88 years old. I think it was 9 months and 11 weeks or something like that. Those numbers are there. I think it was 88 years, 9 months and 11 weeks. Or 9, something like that. Those numbers are there. And so again, there's the 8 again in the symbolism about 9/11 that people have glanced over because they're focused on the 9 and not the 8. But there's 8s. There's a lot of 8s there. There's more than I can even remember to bring up. And so that when you count like the date of his birth to November 8 this year, November 8, which is 8/11 in Australia, right? Because we have reversed the day and the dates, the way they're written is reversed. It's the day and first and the month second, right? So 8/11 in Australia, from the date he was born, is 111 years, 11 months, and 1 week.
Whoa.
Yeah. So you got all those ones again. And so the ones are important because, well, 1 is the soul. And then
11's the higher soul, is it?
Well, 11 is so think of 1 as the soul and 11 as the spirit.
Okay.
And so the spirit comes in, joins with the soul and activates the soul. So the soul now becomes 6, which is Jupiter, right? And yeah, it now becomes 6. So the number 6 comes in with, like, for example, Taylor Swift and her boyfriend, Travis. Now, we had all those documents, you know, sort of that whole controversy that happened recently where, like, did you read the contract?
It was all like a show, their relationship.
Yeah, the relationship's like a show. And I've been saying that for ages.
Mm.
And so
On
they
your
were kind of,
highlight reels on Instagram, you have a lot on Taylor Swift and the boyfriend.
exactly. So her show is called the Eras Tour.
Mm.
Her tour is called the Eros Tour because it's a feminine spin on the name Eros, which is a mythological character that's the equivalent of Cupid.
Mm.
So Cupid is Venus and Mars, child of Venus and Mars. And then, so she's playing the heart and throat. That's why she's a singer, right?
Mm.
And so that's why her, you know, people say, oh, she's not that talented, blah, blah, blah. How can she be so big? And yes, she was forced upon us. But one of the things that makes people love her so much is the fact that she puts on more of a heart-centered show. And it's more heart-centered. It makes people feel connected to each other. Yeah. And that's because she's representing the heart and throat. And then her boyfriend, well, his number is, I can't remember the number on his jersey, but it equals 6. 87. It's 87. So 8 plus 7 equals 15. And then you reduce it to, you know, you add the 5 plus 1 in numerology. This is how it works. And you've got 6. And so he's playing Jupiter. And there's a lot of symbolism. Yeah, if you look into my highlights about that. So and then you look at Katy Perry. You know, where do we even begin with Katy Perry? Like, the other day, she fed her fans pizza outside a building, but not before holding up a heart and then finishing off doing the heart with her hands. And, you know, there's a music video that just came out and she's wearing like these pants that make her look like a centaur.
Wow.
And the human heart is a centaur. So I wasn't surprised at all to see that, but all the symbolism is screaming heart. The heart is the secret. The heart is the secret. The heart is, the all-seeing eye. You know how everyone's like, oh, the all-seeing eye. So that's the moon, because the dark side of the moon in the sky, the moon represents the heart. That's why, like, when there's a full moon, if it affects you in a negative way, that's because you got too much of the wrong portal open. It should be it shouldn't be that way. Mel Gibson knows what's going on. When he opens up the Passion of the Christ, you've got Jesus in the garden. You know, he knows he's about to be taken, by the Pharisees to the Romans. So he's there and he's on his knees praying. This is the very opening scene of the Passion of the Christ. And the moon is full. And he's like looking up. And then as soon as a cloud comes and covers the moon, he collapses. He loses his strength and he collapses.
Wow.
Because he's getting strength through the moon. Right?
Yeah.
And so people don't understand, like, even I didn't understand for the longest time, that the moon it's dual, not like the sun. The moon is dual. So because it's connected to the black sun underneath, all our actions, words, desires, and thoughts are being watched. And so we go through life thinking that we can do sneaky things like cheat on someone or steal something, or like screw people over, or be selfish and put ourselves first and all this stuff. And we think that no one notices. Right? That couldn't be further from the truth. So now let's talk about the rays of the black sun, because this is where we're going to get into the ray stuff, like ray gun.
The breakdancer who got famous, like, anyway. But that's all a reason. It's not a coincidence.
Well, yeah, I mean, doesn't it look obvious that was a big show? I mean, it's just obvious. So the rays are, so we've been lied to about the Northern Lights. Well, it's not a complete lie if you look at how they explain it, because they do say it has to do with the sun. They're not talking about the sun that we think. They're talking about another sun. Okay, so the polar lights are basically the rays of the black sun beneath us. And so when you've got ray, like ray, ray gun, and recently we had a story in the news about, heartbreak. You're going to see the word break, stab, pierce, all these kinds of words, because the heart, we want to break it in the sense that we want to break it. We want to break the eight. We want to break the heart because it's the human heart. We want to close those gates, or, we want to close those gates so that it becomes a benefic heart, So we want to break it. And also, that's how we actually grow, is through heartbreak. Because if we don't suffer, we don't grow, because we don't have anything to propel us, to give us a reason to change, we just get stuck in the world of illusion. It's through suffering that we change. So it has a bit like a double meaning.
Yeah.
But so like the rays are those lights, and you're going to see the word ray in connection to break, split, break, pierce, stab, etc.
Yeah.
And so when you think about it, and the black sun is is 8. It's also, when you see 8, it can also be related to the black sun. And so, for example, you got Steve Irwin. He was 44.
When he got
4 + 4 = 8.
Yeah.
And he was pierced in the heart by a stingray. Right?
Oh, yes. Wow.
Yeah. And then you've got recently we had a story about the headline said heartbreak, because someone went and killed these stingrays that the locals the locals loved them, and then someone went and killed them. And so it was a reason to put in the headline like heartbreak, to join the word ray with break, with heartbreak.
Yes.
And then what I found interesting was that Ray Martin, he hosted the World Youth Day in Barangaroo in 2008. And that was, the stage was just in front of where the Crown building is now. And so he hosted the broadcast, the official broadcast for the day. And the Pope, because there was the Pope that came to visit that day in 2008, he was buried 15 years later in the outfit that he wore 3 days after that day at Randwick Racecourse in Sydney. Now, if you look at the speech, like how random is that? He was buried in the outfit that he wore. If you can look it up, look and see what outfit he was buried in. It says what he wore to Sydney in 2008 for World Youth Day. Why did they do that? Why, of all the things he could have worn, it was that outfit? Now, if you look at the speech that he did, it's all about the Holy Spirit. The speech he did in that outfit is all about the Holy Spirit. And the theme of the World Youth Day was, you will have power when the Holy Spirit comes upon you. And that is a verse from the book of Acts. Now, if you go, well, you and I went to the Crown a couple of weeks ago, and we saw that there was a restaurant in there called Epicurean, across from the Pearl Ballroom, which pearl represents the heart, right? And the pearl is born in the shells, just like there's shells on the Opera House, right?
Yeah.
And so Epicurean, if you go back, if you trace the etymology back to the original Greek word, it means assistant or ally. Assist, someone that assists, and an ally that assists you. And so in the Bible, the Holy Spirit is referred to as the Comforter. And so the Holy Spirit is the helper. The Holy Spirit is your power. It's where you get your power from. It's a really big deal. If you look up Sophia, the goddess Sophia, it's a personification of the Holy Spirit. It's another sort of way to talk about the Holy Spirit. So
is it like an activator? What activates you, kind of thing?
It's the spirit. So you know how, like, I never knew what's the difference between the soul and the spirit.
Yeah.
I thought, aren't they the same thing, the soul and the spirit? They're not. The soul is the masculine and the spirit is the feminine. So the divine feminine is the key to unlocking the divine masculine. Right? It's the key. And that's why in Stranger Things, you have the machine, right, that blasts the portal open, and you have to turn it on with 2 keys turned at the same time, because one is the soul and one is the spirit. And the machine is powered by a substance called promethium, which comes from Prometheus, right? And I talked about Prometheus before. And so, you know, he's the mythological character that is tied up to a rock. And that's because the black sun is hiding it's hiding underneath the earth. So Epicurean, if you trace it back, it means helper or assist, to assist or help. And so the Pope was telling us where our power is. He was buried in the outfit he wore that day. See, Jesus was baptized by John the Baptist. John the Baptist represented the heart. Before that, he was just Jesus. He wasn't Jesus Christ until that day. He's baptized. He goes under the water, comes up. John the Baptist represents the divine heart. That's why he had a miraculous conception like Jesus. You know, a lot of Christians don't really like to talk about that because they don't really understand, why did he have a miraculous birth? What makes John that special that he had a miraculous birth? It wasn't a virgin birth, but his mother was an old barren woman. And so he's a big deal. John the Baptist is a really big deal. And he's kind of just this mostly off-screen character. He baptizes Jesus. So that's the heart. So Jesus is the soul being purified, right? He's being purified through the heart. And guess what comes, if you look up Jesus baptism in images in Google, you're going to see like 90% of the time a dove hovering above them in the Jordan River. Remember what I said about the Jordan River? It's a solar plexus. So this is the same river that I spoke about before. He was baptized in the Jordan River. And the dove represents the Holy Spirit. So now that he's been purified, the Holy Spirit has come.
Wow.
So when you purify your heart, this is what I mean about the heart is the key. It is the main key. And when people, the fundamentalist Christians come at me and say, no, all you need is Jesus. Jesus is the key. All you need is Jesus. And it's like blasphemy to say that anything else it's important. But even Jesus needed John the Baptist to become Christ. Without John the Baptist, he couldn't become Jesus Christ. He was just Jesus.
And again, I mean, with all these allegories and stories and things that we're watching, they're using people to represent different stages of, evolution within us. So again, it's important not to get mixed up between like relying on something external to you, because it's all about you.
That's right.
Yeah. Like, for example, with Trinity telling Neo, get up. She's just the other aspect of him. It's not like someone is like helping him. Like, do you know what I mean? What I'm trying to say is like a lot of it is demonstrated as people external to you, but it's not really. They're just representing other aspects of you that need to be activated. So don't get confused about that. Like, you need to do the work. Ain't nobody gonna do your dirty work for you.
That's right. And that's where they went wrong with the whole twin flame thing. Because in the sort of new agey community, it's all about, your twin flame is this other person that's out there somewhere that you have to find. It's not how it works. So the twin flame is Jupiter. So it's like, think of it like a marriage, like a wedding in a church, and you've got the bride, the groom, and the priest represents God, right? So it's a trinity. When you get married religiously, it's not just a marriage between the groom and the wife and the bride. It involves God because it's a trinity. So feminine, men are from Mars, women are from Venus, and then you got Jupiter.
Wow.
And so when this becomes activated, this is when you've got your dormant DNA has unlocked, and you've basically taken the higher ground, and you've taken the high ground now because you're now basically like a vessel for God to enter this realm. You become a vessel for God to enter this realm. But the thing that I'm realizing is that the reason why we have never seen in our lifetime, we've never seen people become fully activated. We've never seen anyone activate their dormant DNA. Have you? I haven't. There's a reason for that.
Not
because
personally.
because it's something that happens at the end of the age. Something happens, and this is what Wi-Fi and 5G and all that is symbolism of.
At a deeper layer.
On a deeper level, it's symbolizing something that's coming into the ether. So your heart is like an antenna, and there's this the spirit is like here now, and it's in the ether, and it's coming because we're approaching the end of a cycle now. And so some people call it the Phoenix event, and the Phoenix is like a mythological creature that represents cycles. And so the Phoenix event, it happens, we believe that it's going to happen in 16 years from now, like 2040. And so because we're approaching the end of this cycle, this is like the time for these things to actually take place. So when you look at the story of Jesus, I know a lot of people want to cling on to the literal interpretation of that story, but in my opinion, it's actually just very, very, very clever, creative writing. And they created a character using all these. He's got a bit of Dionysus, a bit of Prometheus. He also represents the people at the end of the age who actually become activated. And that's why in the Bible, there are apart from Jesus, everyone else, like Moses, for example, who freed the Israelites and parted the Red Sea and did all these amazing things, like a pretty important prophet, he was not a perfect man by any means. He was actually like, he had a lot of flaws. And this is where a lot of religious people have it wrong. They're waiting, like when it comes to the Savior and the Messiah, they're waiting for someone perfect. But in reality, it's going to be people with histories that are far from perfect. But what they've done is they've purified their hearts, and they've closed those portals off. And now God, they've basically become vessels for God to enter the realm. Like for when I say God, I mean like the highest level, 9. I'm talking about Neptune, 9, through Uranus, because Uranus, remember, is connected to the heart, and the only way you can get to Uranus is through to Neptune is through Uranus. And that's why Jesus said the way to the Father is through me. You can't get to the Father without going through me, because he is the way, because he's born out of Uranus. He's the sun that's born in the solar plexus. And so, and then we unlock the sun. Now we've got Uranus coming in, feeding us wisdom. And through Uranus, we've got the portal to Neptune. And so, so when we talk about how did the pyramids get built, and we speculate, oh, was it the aliens, this and that? Well, it was human beings that became activated at the end of a cycle. And they literally built the pyramids of Giza as symbolism to show us how they built the pyramids of Giza. So you look at the pyramids of Giza, they built them to show us how they built them.
Wow. To show us what we're capable of when we can activate this dormant DNA.
Yeah. And it all happens through the heart. The heart is the key, and we have to get out of the intellect, which so many of us are stuck in the intellect, and we're not doing the heart work at all. We're just sitting around, we're being keyboard warriors, we're worrying about ourselves, we're being selfish, it's all about me and mine, and we're not loving, creation in the same way that God loves creation, which is that God doesn't just love some and not others. God loves all and wants the best for all. And it's about, the purification of the heart. There's so many aspects. There's forgiveness, there's compassion, there's loyalty, there's patience. Like it just goes on and on and on. And we've totally overlooked it. Like it's not an important thing. We're not doing the work. We're not healing our traumas. We're not facing our own darkness. We're not even facing the darkness of the earth, of the planet, of We're just distracting ourselves. That's what we do. We distract ourselves with temporary pleasures. You know, we go on holidays and we buy nice things and we do all these things, and we just ignore the darkness. And the darkness is what gives us a reason that propel us to change, because it makes us ask the questions: why am I here? What is my purpose? You know, what am I here to do? And then when you start to seek the answers, you that's when everything changes. And in Kabbalah, they say that to prepare for the Messianic age, which is basically like, yeah, things are going to get really bad, but things are going to get really good as well. It's that balance. So we're going to see some really bad stuff happen, right, in the next couple of months. And but then we're going to see amazing things happen as well. We're going to see people become activated. We're going to see miracles for the first time in our lives. And we're going to see there's going to be people like with disabilities that are going to be healed, and you know, it's going to be incredible. And to prepare for this, we need to do, this is what they say in Kabbalah, they say we need to do two things. One is live a life of charity, right? Charity is really important. So live a life where it's not just about you, but you are extending, you're living a life of service to others, right? But that's not enough either. So there's that, and there's also the you need to seek the truth as well. You need to seek knowledge. You need to seek wisdom and seek knowledge. So what they've done is they've kind of split us up into two different groups. We've got the left wing and the right wing, and the left wing are like the bleeding hearts. You know, they're the ones that were kind of saying, oh, you need to get the vaccine to save, you know, all the grandmas, right? Because they're thinking about others. But they're also deceived because they're emotionally manipulated, because they're more emotional. So they're being deceived through their emotions, through their hearts. And then you've got like the sort of like the more, you know, the alt-right and the people that are more, they're more about logic. And they could see through, a lot of them could see through that psyop, but they're not going to see through this one. And we've already seen that, because a lot of people in the freedom community who fought for their personal freedoms, they got behind the collective punishment going on in Gaza by Israel. They got behind it. And so
they were pro-genocide.
Exactly. So the last psyop was mostly it was the heart-centered people that bought into that one. And then this psyop, we've got the people that kind of didn't buy into the last one and now buying into this one.
And the irony is the same people that were behind the forced or the lockdowns and mandates are the same people behind the genocide in Gaza.
I know, but
anyway, but
they're just not wise enough to realize.
No connection has been made there.
No.
Yeah.
It is very strange. Yeah.
And also, like, I want to say about, you know, the truther community, or, you know, what we refer to as the red pill community. You know, and I've been there, you know, I was there for a long time, where everything I thought was an agenda, and, you know, Pizzagate, and I mean, yes, it's true. There is pedophilia going on. There's all these horrible things going on, but try not to get stuck in that kind of negative cycle of doom and gloom. There's deeper meanings. There's like a lot of the symbolism you've talked about here, but also understand that, yeah, like we're evolving, and it's not doom and gloom, and this isn't hell. Like, this isn't, we're stuck here. It's not, there's better ways forward. You know what I mean? Like, there's a lot of, in the red pill community, there's just like no hope. The world's going to end. We're going to be microchipped. We're going to be controlled. Like, we don't even think the New World Order is even going to happen before the Phoenix event.
Yeah. So a lot of the symbolism is actually not, you know, the whole like depopulation agenda, for example. Yeah, there is a depopulation agenda, because Judgment Day is coming, and that's part of the Phoenix event. And a lot of people are going to go. They're going to leave. I want to be one of them. So, which is what the symbolism that's coming up is actually about. They're attacking the heart, structures that represent the heart, because the heart of the earth is going to rise. Now, look up Squatter Man, okay? I mean, it was spotted on caves all around the world, because everyone saw the same thing from everywhere, and it looks the same. in Australia, all over the place, because everyone saw the same thing. It was like this big plasma event. That's the Phoenix event. And that is the heart revealing itself and saying, okay, who passed and who failed, you know, like the all-seeing eyes watching. So, you know, we're being tested. So the World Economic Forum, right? They've got this thing, you will own nothing, but you will be happy. Yeah, because who cares? Like if you're a millionaire and you've got all these nice things, who cares about all your stuff if you get to escape the matrix? Yeah, you leave it behind. You don't own it anymore because it's part of the realm of materialism and duality. And you know, and that's why there's that that verse in the Bible that says it is more likely that, you know, that a camel will walk through the pin of a needle, like the little hole in the needle, then a rich man will enter heaven. Because when you are hoarding wealth, right, you are telling the universe, this is my home and I want to build my treasures here. This is where I want to be because this is where I'm investing my energy, my time, and I'm storing up my treasures here in this world of materialism and duality. And so if you don't if you don't stop like being like a wealth hoarder, then it's kind of like how do you deserve to even leave this place? You obviously want to stay here so you can be here and you can live through the pole shift and see if you survive. I mean, at the end of the day, we all die anyway. So even if you do collect all your riches, you die, and then if you come back, you're not going to come back. You're going to come back as some other human somewhere else. You're going to start from scratch. So even it doesn't even make sense anyway.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Yeah, that's really, really big to point out, because if anyone hears you say, oh, like, you know, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy, and you're saying that's actually a good thing, you know, so controlled up. But no, like when you think about it, you are in this realm. That's a shit thing. Yeah, it's probably a shit thing, but in the next realm, it's a good thing. You know, like
yeah. What does it really mean? You know, I'll watch a film and I'll say it's about this, and the next person will watch it and say, oh, it's about racism. And I'll be like, it's actually not. But what they did was they put all this more shallow symbolism in there so that you think it's a film about racism. So you don't look deeper because you're like, oh, well, I know what it's about. It's about racism. Or it actually goes deeper than that. And it's about, like, look at the film Leave the World Behind. People will say it's about racism. Like that's the symbolism.
Yeah.
But go deeper.
They say it's a civil war or a war going on with another country or some shit.
Yeah, but it's not. It's about Judgment Day, and it's in the subtext of the film. It's not in the script. It's in the subtext. There's so many things that indicate that it's actually about the Phoenix event.
And you know what the how can I say this? You know what will determine how you perceive messages in films and in, you know, media is your level of consciousness. That's what's going to determine what you actually pick up on. Because if you do have trauma around, you know, I don't know, race, culture, feminism, all that, that's the first thing you're going to pick up on. You're going to completely miss the deeper layer meaning. So again, I'm going to emphasize, like, work on yourself. Heal those trigger points, because you're missing the deeper meanings to things because you're getting activated by the superficial, unimportant shit. And they're doing that on purpose.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, I think that's enough for today's chat with you, Annette, but we will have another one, of course. I think this is going to be like an ongoing thing. But is there anything you wanted to leave everyone with before we go?
Go and buy a Bible with the words of Jesus typed in red, and just start there. And if you go to your local Islamic bookshop, you'll see tons of books about the heart as well, because that's what the emphasis of Islam is, actually on the heart itself. So just start there.